Welcome back to the Fabric Mart Fit Along. This is the final episode. Last week we finished fitting the bodice, skirt, and sleeve, and now we're gonna do the fabric fitting. Fabric fitting is so important because now you're actually fitting two sides of your body rather than one. I'm gonna give you a few tips on how to prepare all of your pieces for the fabric fitting. So I have my bodice here, the front of the bodice, and I'm going to show you how to mark your darts efficiently and effectively so you have a really good fabric fitting. To do the bust dart, what I like to do is put a pin at the point, and then I'll put a couple pins at each side. We've also clipped the dart already in cutting out the fabric, so I'm just going to pull the tissue over the pins. And that's gonna help me mark my dart. So I'm taking my chalk now, and this is gonna be the end of the dart. So I'm just gonna make a line chalk mark right there. And then I'm gonna make one on either side of the pins. And now I can take them out. I'll just use my straight ruler and match the notches with the two lines that I just made. There we go. Perfect, so that's gonna be my dart. And this chalk really helps me to pin it properly. So I can just look, I'll push the pin in on one side and then I'll make sure that I'm hitting the chalk mark on the other side. And that's just gonna make sure that you pin your dart really accurately. Now before I pin that, I'm also gonna show you how to mark your pleats down here. So I'll bring the pattern paper back and I'm gonna put a pin. I've marked the pleats with notches at the bottom. So I'm just gonna put pins up here at the top of the pleat where this pleat's supposed to end. And it's quite a few. Perfect, 1, 2, 3. Now there's a lot of tape at this point, so it might be a little difficult for me to get this pattern paper off. But just bear with me here. Perfect. Now again, I'm just gonna mark at the top of these pins with my chalk individually. Perfect. Now I have the point where the pleats need to stop. So I'm just going to use my notches and draw a straight line from my notch to the top of that pleat. And then those will help me connect the pleats, the sewing lines, stitching lines together. Almost done here. There's my notch. Perfect. So you can clearly see my 3 pleats right there. And now I'll just bring the 2 lines together. At the top, I'll put my first pin and I'll just angle it down and make sure I got on the line of that pleat and got that line pinned right there. And I'll do 1 more pin. Perfect. And then I'll just continue to pin those guys together and I'm done with that front bodice. The markings just really help you get an accurate fitting, accurate fabric fitting. So the last few tips I want to give you is for interfacing. You really want to interface, especially even though this is a stable knit, it's still a knit. So you want to interface the back neck facing and also the front facing, as well as the waistband, the ties here. And for the ties I use, and for all the facings, I use Perfect Fuse sheer. And for the neckband and the shoulder band, I used So Keezy Stay Tape. And that just really helps the shoulders not stretch out and the neck not stretch out in the back. One last really cool tip that I'm going to show you is how to turn your tie. I have this really old school tool that I stole from Patty, and I just think it's super cool. I love the box. It's like shiny and looks like snakeskin, kind of cool. But it's actually a really neat tool, and I wish they would bring them back. So maybe if you can go on Etsy or something and find them, it's a really cool tool to have. It's called the Fast Turn, which is also a cool name. And I'm gonna just take the biggest tube because this is a pretty big tie, but a lot of times I know you can do spaghetti straps. So they have this like really thin one. They even have one thinner than that. That would be a tiny, tiny spaghetti strap. So they have a few different widths, but I'm gonna take the biggest one for this tie. And I'm just gonna slide it over. And then you take this turning tool and you just stick it through the tube and you twist it so it gets a hold of the end of that tie, and then you just pull it through the tube. And there is my perfectly easy, fast, way faster than using like a safety pin like I've used before, those little bodkins. They're just so slow, and I just love this thing, so I wanted to show you guys. And now I'm just gonna finish pinning everything together, and we will meet you at the mirror for Julie's fabric fitting. So now that we've sewn what we need to and pinned everything else together, I'm just trying the bodice on Julie. I have the seams to the outside, and I just want to make sure. I kind of am seeing there's still a little bit of gaping back here in her back shoulder, and I think I didn't really notice it in tissue, but I'm really seeing it in fabric that she has kind of a sloping shoulder as well. So she has narrow, the prominent shoulder blades, and a sloping shoulder. You have a lot of shoulder issues, girlfriend. So I'm just gonna, I see it really on your left side. Let me just check the right, and just drop your arm. Perfect. So it's not as bad on the right, but still we could bring it up a little bit. So this alteration you'll adjust in your pattern after the fact. I think it's just about 1/4 of an inch, something tiny. And then that way it'll be adjusted on your pattern and you'll be good to go for the next dress that you make. And now I just want to make sure that the bust darts are in the right place. This is super important in fabric fitting especially. Now the right, it looks good. It's pointing to her apex. It looks low enough. The left, you can see, is really high. So we definitely need to move this bust dart down so it's a little bit more horizontal and it's pointing to her apex. Now I'll just take out the first couple pins here. I'll use my dress as a pin cushion. And I'm just gonna kind of rotate this dart a little bit lower, and I'll just need to look at you from straight on to make sure that we're even here. Great. That's looking good. And it's really just the tip, the apex of the dart that I'm rotating down. I don't need to do much with the dart at the side seam. If you do, it's a little bit more of an alteration and you just have to take time with it. Now that looks so much better. Here, you take a look in the mirror and tell me if it looks even to you.
Mm-hmm. Looks much better.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And just face me. Yeah, that's looking really good. Now the last thing that I want to check on the bodice is that these pleats underneath her bust are directly underneath her bust. So the pleats actually replace a vertical bust dart, which would actually make the dress curve to her under here. The pleats is just a design detail, but you still want to make sure they're in the right place so that they are, more or less underneath her bust. And I'm just going to check this side. Remember, we have the wrap, the underside of the wrap. And yeah, those pleats look good. They look like they are resting, right underneath her bust. That looks great. And the wrap is fitting really nice in the neckline. It just looks really good all over. So I'm really happy with the bodice, and it feels good in the waist. It's wrapping around. That's great. So let's try on the skirt as I drop it on the floor. And you can keep the bodice on, but we'll be focusing on the skirt. We want to make sure you have your waistband and it is coming, the stitching line is coming to the top of the waistband. I can feel it right there. So I'll just wrap this around you. And we basically, with the skirt, we just want to make sure in the fabric fitting that it has enough width. And that should be perfect. That looks really good. It's a little bit higher than we want it. Here, we'll drop it down a little bit. Yeah, that elastic waistband is really a good thing to have, because then you know exactly where your waist was meant to be. But that looks really nice. It's coming together kind of. It looks really good. I wouldn't change anything about the skirt. Good. In fabric. And let's just try the sleeve on and make sure that it's wide enough. And remember, we're going to have a cuff there, so that's going to take up some width. So I'm glad that we have a little extra fabric right there. Perfect. So I think we're ready to sew up your final dress. I'm so excited after all of this. It's been great. Yeah. All right, let's get it finished and then we can check it out.
Okay.
All right. So we have finished the final dress, and I'm so happy with the fabric choice of the dress with this design. It really shows the nice pleating details really well, and having, the sleeve cuff, the fabric has a good structure to it. So it drapes so beautifully on Julie. And I think the fit was just a really important part of this. We got the shoulder right. I mean, your experience.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think that the whole tissue fitting process went really well. And my shoulder area was a problem that I've had for a very long time. And we were able to make it fit really great. It's nice and smooth. And
yeah, we have the shoulder dart in there now too, and it just fits your back. The upper neck looks really good. It's not gaping, and I may have not known that you needed that high round if you didn't tell me about that problem with the gaping at the upper neck. But it's all about experience and trying and doing different things and tissue fitting. It's always a process, and the more you do it, the better you get. But I will tell you, if you take the pattern out of the package and you do some tissue fitting, it'll always be better than if you just took it out of the package and sewed it right up. So I'm really happy, and I thank you guys so much for coming to our fit along and tuning in every week.
Yeah, thank you very much for watching our videos. We hope that you learned a little bit more about tissue fitting, and we hope that you'll use it in your future sewing projects.
I also want to thank Fabric Mart and McCall's for hosting these videos, as well as my beautiful model, Julie Brown. She was such a great help in this process, being a wonderful sewer yourself, and you just have such a great finished product. It was really a pleasure.
Thank you. And I should thank you for helping with this video as well, and taking us through the whole fitting process and really helping me perfect my body in the tissue fitting method. And I'm really happy with the end result.
Good, I'm so glad.